happened since our last meeting in October. We had a voters forum. We had a huge election. We have a new president, a new mayor, 2 new city councilors, and we will be having elections of our own as a board next month. So it's a big season. We'll get started by reviewing the minutes for last month. So please take a moment to look at those. Provide any comments if you have them. I'm only going to be providing one at the moment, and that's just the numbering system is a little off on the minutes. So small fix. Otherwise, do I have any comments on those minutes?
For me, it's good.
All right. Would you like to make the motion to approve those minutes, Ahmed?
Yes.
All right. Do I have a second? I'm not sure I heard a second.
Second.
Okay, Oswaldo, thank you. And all in favor? Awesome. Any opposed? All right, minutes approved. Thank you very much. We'll move on to public comment.
So if there's anyone on the call that would like to give public comment, if you could raise your hand or put something in the chat so I can open up your microphone, please. Looks like we have Karen. Go ahead, Karen.
Hi, thank you. I would just like to say I've been attending some of the Beaverton meetings such as this, and I am wondering, you are all addressing police reform, police accountability, community oversight for the police, and you're all including police in your meetings. But I don't see, or I haven't heard from a lot of community people that actually have issues or have had some experience with encounters with the police. And I'm just wondering, there hasn't really, I'm just wondering if, I'm hoping I'm not speaking prematurely because I haven't attended a lot of your meetings, but I just don't see a lot of outreach here to the community. I've been a Beaverton citizen for over 20 years. I have a severely mentally ill person, a loved one, and I've looked down the barrel of a Beaverton police officer gun in my encounter with the Beaverton police. And I just want to make sure that you are hearing from the community who is having this type of experience with the police. And I look at the your city publications, and I do not see you calling for community input and asking the community to, you know, respond and let you know what the issues are with police and what needs to be done with police reform in the here in the city. So that's all I wanted to say. I hope I'm not speaking prematurely, but I don't see a lot of outreach to the community and real, you know, you all have your experiences and you all know you're talking to your neighbors and everything else, and that's what I'm hearing, but you need to seek community input, and I hope you will engage in that and work toward that. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Do you want me to say a few words about that?
If you'd like to.
Yeah, just a few, Karen, just to let you know. First of all, we are looking at issues. Our Human Rights Advisory Commission has spent 5 months, having meetings, listening to different things, and they're going to be looking and making recommendations. We also hired a consultant as a council, and she did an initial look at with a lot of groups, and we got input from the public and also input from different organizations within our community that represented the BIPOC community to try to define what we feel like we want to be looking at. So that will continue. One of the things we've already talked about quite a bit is exactly your issue, and that is that it's when things go wrong, it's usually intense conditions, and it's not unusual that it has to do with someone who has a mental handicap issue, or might be on drugs, and so not quite in their right frame of mind. So we have been talking about models where we have social workers who work more specifically with people like that could either be available to go themselves or be with police and able to come, so that if possible, if it's not really dangerous, they can be the one who actually talks with the mentally disabled person. So we are looking at that as an option. And it's slow, and government is slow. We're going through this process. We've got to get back and evaluate what we learned from the consultant and what we think our best next steps are. We'll be waiting to hear back from our Human Rights Advisory Committee. If this group wants to take part in any of the work next year, they'll be more than welcome to do that. So we are still moving, plodding along slowly but surely. And I don't know if Captain Wandell or Lieutenant Stelling wants to say any more either, but that's kind of where we are from my standpoint as a city council.
Yeah, Karen, this is, hopefully I unmuted here. So Karen, this is Captain Wandell from the police department. If you have, and obviously you're addressing the Diversity Action Board, but or advisory board, but if you have specific questions or concerns that you'd like to discuss with me or Lieutenant Sellingworth, I would definitely open to the conversation. I don't know how long ago the incident you're referencing is, but if it's something that you'd like to discuss with me and we could look into, I'd love to do that. So I'd make that offer to you.
Alexis, do we have anybody else?
I don't see anyone else with their hands up. Just last call, if anyone from the public would like to make a comment or ask a question, if you can indicate that by either raising your hand or putting something in the chat. And if not, it looks like we'll turn it back over to you, Rachel.
Okay, great. Thank you, Karen, and those who participated in the conversation. We'll go on to cultural sharing. I believe Dahlia is up tonight.
Hi, everyone. It's good to see all your faces and be here tonight. I believe I have 10 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? Okay. So for my part today, I am sharing about my country, Lebanon. And I have two videos for you, two short videos, really. The first one is going to show the nature of Lebanon. I didn't really want to show you the city because, the city looks like any other city, I believe, but I wanted to show you the nature. And then I have another video that, of course, is more interesting and exciting, which is about food. So, but we will go ahead and show that first one first, and I will be sharing my screen with you. Can you please confirm that you're able to see the screen? Yes, okay, great.
Yeah.
So that was one of the videos that I wanted to show. And again, this is really, I chose the nature of different parts in Lebanon. And it's you know, Lebanon was once considered the Switzerland of the East because of what you've seen. It was even more beautiful back in the old days. So the second one I wanted to show you all is about, you know, some of the food we consume in Lebanon and that we share in the Arab world. The reason is, you know, the Lebanese cuisine was actually one of the cuisines that were on the world's top cuisine, Mediterranean cuisines and healthiest cuisines, I should say, healthiest. That's what I was looking for. And that's because of the low fat options it has in its ingredients. And so we eat and we consume a lot of fish, vegetables, whole grains and fruits and some meat, of course, every once in a while. So we can watch this one for about a minute and 43 seconds. And that's about the food we consume.
Considered one of the healthiest cuisines in the world, Lebanese meals are unmistakably recognizable. Their fresh scents hail from seasonings like parsley, cinnamon, and mint, while complex textures are materialized in baba ganoush and kibbeh. Traditional Lebanese meals are also characterized by preserving simple appearances, like that of meze platters and hummus. If you're trying Lebanese cuisine for the first time, start with TABBOULEH, a crunchy garden salad that's seasoned with tangy lemon, minced garlic, olive oil, and doused with scallions, chopped tomatoes, parsley, and mint. This healthy salad is the ideal taste bud debut. It's more common to find meals served with poultry or seafood than red meat. This long-established diet makes for a perfect opportunity to try shish tawouk, or boneless chicken kebab. This filling entree is marinated in lemon juice, paprika, salt, and garlic before being grilled or baked to a golden brown and served with a tender side of rice. The falafel is famous throughout Middle Eastern culture and a favored food in Lebanon. Though the Lebanese can't claim credit for its creation, they do enjoy its fried dough texture, chickpea filling, and convenient on-the-go handling. Close your meal with a household dessert called BAKLAVA, a crispy multi-layered pastry stuffed with dried fruits, almonds, and walnuts. Topped with honey, ground cinnamon, and orange blossom water, this after-meal delight is sweet to the touch and taste.
Great. So that's those are the a couple of videos that I wanted to show you. And if you need any recommendations on where to eat good and authentic Lebanese food, let me know. There are several in town, and I'm sure you know some of those names. In Beaverton, we have a couple, I know. But yes, a lot of vegans like to have falafel, for example. And so that's hummus, one of the top food choices. So that's a little bit about my country, Lebanon, and I am from the capital, Beirut city. I don't know if you have any questions, but I'm open to any. Oh, thank you. They sure look delicious. I hope you all had dinner.
Thanks, Dalia. That was really beautiful, the pictures and stuff. I just wanted to quickly ask, you know, that explosion that happened in Beirut in August,
Yes.
did that, the countryside look beautiful? That didn't affect the countryside or anything, did it?
Not the
just
country.
center?
That's right. Not the countryside. Exactly. It was actually in the port of Beirut, that where the explosion happened and took place, and it was an unfortunate because it really damaged big areas in the city, and then homes and houses, and many people lost their lives. In fact, our apartment in Beirut was affected as a result. I received pictures of it, and thankfully no one was hurt from my family. But it was something. We are still in the process, of course, rebuilding what was damaged. It's going to take years and years because there are so many businesses, so many buildings, homes, as I mentioned, and as a result, a lot of people left the country, unfortunately, because of the financial impact that it took. So yeah, I mean, people are paying the price of this unfortunate accident. Mistake.
I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm glad your family and your relatives are safe. And
thank you. They are. Thank you. Yes, we are very grateful.
I'm sorry that all these things happened in Lebanon, and my heart goes out to you guys and all those countries that are still suffering. And I don't know why war when there is so much love, and it's just the greed and never ending greed and power, love of power that some people have. They put the whole world in misery, and that's unfortunate. But all these will end little by little by people like us who come together and put our minds together to see how we can gradually solve the problems, and peace will be on its way, because no matter how much they try, there is still more of us than them. There are just a few persons that they are
For
like
sure.
and so I wanted to go back to the food in Lebanon. 5 minutes away from my house, there is the Lebanese restaurant. I like it. I go there.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I know a few in Beaverton. That's right.
Yeah, and the name of the restaurant is Oasis.
Oasis. I know that one. Yes, that's right. I know that one. Yes.
So,
let's go. We can go there. Yeah. We definitely.
As a matter of fact, yesterday my daughter and her friend, they went there and had lunch together.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, and I think there is another one called like Gyro Fresh. It's very delicious. They do like great hummus. So
is it on Baseline? The one on Baseline?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
So because Dahlia, she's showing us a lot of food, so I feel hungry and I need to leave. So thank you, Dahlia, for sharing, and good luck tonight, guys. I'm sorry I will leave. I have family issues need to take care of. Sure. Thank you so much, and have a great meeting and a great day. Bye.
Bye. Yeah, sorry, I don't want to take more time. I think that's my 10 minutes, but thank you, everyone. Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dahlia. I appreciate it. And feel free to post some of those favorite places you were talking about in the chat as well. We'll move on to liaison reports now, starting with Councilor Arnold.
Thank you. I have to say something too about what Manaja just said. In 2018, December of 2018, I was invited to go to speak at this school district conference in Lahore, Pakistan. So I, traveled to the other side of the world, a culture I'd never seen, and I made some dear friends I am still in touch with, but I'll never forget talking to one woman, and I was saying, we have so much more in common than most people know. And especially at that time, it was such a weird time. I had relatives in Texas afraid that I would be killed by radical Muslim people going there. And it was like nothing like that. The only person who ever looked at me cross-eyed was when I went into this Coca-Cola convention and I was taking pictures, and this man says to me, "Who are you? Why are you taking those pictures?" And I said, "My name's Cate Arnold. I'm from the United States. I'm going to be giving a speech here tomorrow night. I'm taking pictures to send to my family." And he goes, "Well, welcome. Come join us." And I think he was thinking I might be a Pepsi Cola spy. I think that was the problem. But again, I was talking to her and I was saying how much we have in common. And she says, yes, we all have the same empathy. And that just struck my heart. If we can look for that in community together, the things that you as a board are trying to create, we can use the empathy of our existence to change this world. I hope we succeed. So as far as council, there's quite a bit going on, especially the charter change. We are going to be having a meeting tomorrow night. We'll be discussing changes to our code that will align our code with the new charter. On Thursday, we're having interviews with candidates for the interim city manager. As I mentioned, we'll have an interim city manager for probably 6 or 7 months in the new year. So we will be choosing that person this week. Also, since Lacey won the mayoral race, her seat will be opening up. It's most likely that we'll have an election to fill that seat in May. We'll have to decide as a council whether just to leave it open or to have an interim person in there. That discussion is yet to come. We've also got, as I mentioned to Karen, ongoing discussions about our next steps as far as dealing with racial issues with our police primarily, but also looking at other things that we can do within the city. Our human resources department has been doing an extensive study and looking at what's going on internally. And of course, you guys are doing your work. So there's more going on in the city than just, do we need to do something about police? So those are the big things going on right now. If anyone has any questions, let me know. And I hope I'm not either yelling too loud or talking too soft. So.
Thank you, Councilor Arnold. Were there any questions or comments for her before we move on to our next liaison report? Okay, I don't see any hands. So we'll move on. Thanks again. I believe Karenna is here tonight. So would you like to provide an MYAB update for us?
Yeah, for sure. So at our last meeting, we broke up into subcommittees. So those are advocacy, youth homelessness, community involvement, and diversity and equity. And we're starting to brainstorm beginning ideas for what those projects may look like. For diversity and equity, they're planning on doing a diversity summit, likely virtual this year, but using kind of the groundwork that we laid out last year. I'm in charge of the community involvement subcommittee, where we're looking at doing various events to get people supplies they need because of COVID. So we're just in the beginning stages in all our subcommittees, and we're hoping to do more projects this year because it's all virtual, so there's more opportunity for that.
That's awesome, Karenna. Any comments or questions for her? Oswaldo.
Over the weekend, I think I read an article on the Business Journal. I don't remember which one, but they had a study, I guess, of diversity in the different school districts, population, demographics. And it was amazing to see throughout the region the numbers of the percentages of diversity at each of the different schools in the different school districts. And so I think it is important that that you guys are doing this diversity summit. And let me know if there is something I can do to help Karenna to, I don't know, just get the attention of minorities, because in some of the schools, they are the majority. And it isn't acceptable that they're not participating in these type of platforms. We need to hear their voices, and we need to find a way to make them feel welcome at these groups. So if there is anything that I can do to help, I'm more than happy to do it.
Absolutely, yeah, I'll let you know, and I'll let, I guess, everyone in DAB know anything you guys can do to help. That would be great.
Wonderful, thank you so much. And glad to hear that that's still part of your plans to do that diversity summit. We'll move on now to hear a liaison report from the Beaverton Police Department, please.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I think I'm missing the board member who last meeting brought up a question about the makeup of the SRO program. So I'm kind of debating whether I want to kind of just fill you in quickly on the SROs or wait till next week. So I might just hit a little in a nutshell. So how the SROs are assigned is they're advertised. We as a police department don't assign people to school program, or we don't assign them to the traffic division. So if there's an internal position, we post and we have to see if there's interest in it. So it's always constantly evolving. So the SRO program is 6, I believe 7 with the addition of Mountain Home High School. And in comparison, the traffic division is 7, detective division is 14. So when it comes to openings, I think they rotate about every 5, maybe 6 years now. So the makeup of the SRO program is always changing. So I think there was a question last time on the diversity of it. But as I just mentioned, probably every year it changes because they'll either rotate out or they'll change kind of a career path. And so when it comes to openings, a lot of times with an SRO program, I may only have 1 or 2 applicants because it's what somebody wants to do on their career path within the police department. So kind of hopefully, and I can go into more later at a different meeting because I know you're kind of running behind the time a little bit. So they're not assigned. So a few years ago, kind of had maybe 3 female officers, 3 male officers, and then that kind of changed. They either promote to sergeant or they promote into detectives and so on. So hopefully, I don't want to take up too much time. That kind of clarifies that a little bit, and I can go into it more later. And if you want to, we can put some on the agenda to discuss the SRO program and also our hiring practices. And then on a different note, quickly, I talked to Alexis. It'd be nice to have, the members of the Diversity Advisory Board come into the new police department and do a tour at some point in time. And we were starting to do that, but unfortunately, it was kind of, I think, the police department's turn. We've been fully operational since COVID hit, since March, with no issues. But if you follow the Oregon Health Authority, we had 8 cases of COVID in the past 2 weeks. So, as essential workers, like a lot of essential workers, we don't have the ability to stay home. So we have to mitigate when we have a COVID case. So as I mentioned, we had 8. Luckily, we haven't had any in the past week. But we're still providing safe service to the community with even reduced scheduling. So I just want to throw that out there. It kind of doesn't pertain to the Diversity Advisory Board, but I thought it'd be important for everyone to know kind of what we're operating under. So, and then I think Lieutenant Stellingworth and I are going to stay on the meeting through the police department portion of the DEI plan. And so if anybody has any questions, kind of let us know, and then we might sign off after that because I think you have different business. So I think that will be it.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Captain Wandell?
I'm actually bowing out. Good night, everyone.
Bye. All right, not seeing any hands here. Oh, I do. Alex, so sorry.
put it in the chat. What was the name of that program you were talking about? The SRO?
Oh, yeah, sorry, Alex. Kind of late in the day and my hearing's not that good. The School Resource Officer Program. I was making the mistake of abbreviating that and not saying the whole verbiage there. My apologies.
I saw Oswaldo's hand on also.
Oswaldo, you good?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks. All right. One more report left. We've got Teresa with HTAG.
Yes, hopefully everyone can hear me okay. So HTAG is getting ready to review, it actually ties into our report that we're doing now. So reviewing specifically the housing section, looking at the 5-year housing action plan and seeing how Beaverton is doing in its first fiscal year. So the first fiscal year, as you may or may not know, 2019, 2020, just taking a look at that, deep diving and evaluating how we're doing and to give recommendations to council in January. So getting that done, as we all know, kind of reviewing can take some time. So if you would like to attend the next HTAG meeting, we're still deciding on dates, but it will either be November 18th or 19th. So Wednesday or Thursday. Yes, and I will let you all know if you're interested in that, but it has not been decided yet. It was moved due to Thanksgiving holiday. Yes, and I know I had a question last month. I think I answered it. Ahmed had a question about Housing Authority. So if anyone else has questions about housing projects going up in Washington County, feel free to leave me a message in the chat and I will email you separately at a later date and time.
Thanks, Teresa. Any questions or comments here? All right, looks like people are really excited to get to our progress ratings. So let's move on to that. We've got 2 sections left and one to return to briefly, and Alexis will lead us in this portion of our agenda.
Yeah, all right. Well, we will just pick up where we left off. I think everybody on the call was here last time, but if I'm wrong about that, the general plan is just, we will invite the people that were assigned to a particular section to just present to the group a little bit first, their observations and what progress rating they would recommend the group assigned for the area. And then once those folks have done that, if there are other people that have additional comments or questions or things to add, then we'll have space for that. And when we get done with that, we will take a little poll to see if how people would rate the section. And we're gonna just do that again, sort of provisionally for these 2 sections that we have left. And we're gonna return to the public engagement section because we had almost an even split there. See if we can get any more clarity. And then I'm gonna just bring up a screenshot of what all of the provisional ratings are so far so that you all can vote to approve that all at once instead of voting on each individual area. So if that makes sense to everyone, we'll go ahead. Our next section that we had not gotten to yet was economic empowerment. So I had Caroline, Oswaldo, Ahmed, Dalia, Rehana, and Dennis who were assigned to those sections. So I will just, Caroline was not able to make it, but she sent some comments ahead of time. So I'm gonna paste what she sent about this section in the chat so you all can see that, and then invite one of those other folks to go ahead and start us off.
So, hi, so it's Rahana here. So I'll start off because I had made some notes last time and I had to just dig them up to see and refresh myself. So I gave this section emerging, because I feel there were a lot of gaps and we didn't really start many of the programs like the youth entrepreneurship program, the business program that got abolished for the last 2 years. So there was a gap in that. And then the volunteer fair. I feel that did we have this this year? No, we didn't, right? Because of COVID. But I feel that even though it's well attended, we don't have many youth of color attending that. So I was wondering how we can do that, how we can attract youth of color to that event. But most of the status of most of the indicators are still in progress, so that's why I gave it an emerging. That was all and also the Beaverton night market this year, even though it was a cultural sharing event, we didn't really have an opportunity. We should have given, well, I think it would have been nice for the vendors to have an opportunity to gain sales from it. We didn't really have an opportunity to do that. So that, I think, that was due to COVID. So that's understandable. But they're my comments as of now.
Thank you, Rehana. Others, it looks like Dalia or Oswaldo. Anything to, what was your perspective on this section?
I read through this and I also agree that it's kind of a moderate progress. A lot of things that have been or that are in place and supported by some really good percentages of participation from persons, the community of people of color, I guess, like the city support of Impact Beaverton. It says that over the first 6 months of 2020, Impact has served 176 client businesses, with 76% being persons of color, 53% women-owned, 4% veteran, and 3% ADA. So those numbers are impressive. It just, again, I'm in the communications business and I don't see a lot of communication. So, and I don't know where those numbers come from, but I'm sure they are real. And there are other ones like the contract with PCC that the city allocates $125,000 supporting minorities. Or are those scholarships? But I think those are very important platforms to have in place, and we just need to find ways to do more.
I think, I don't know if was that a question, Oswaldo, about PCC Future Connect?
Yes.
Yeah. So it is a scholarship, but their services are so much bigger than just scholarship. So they do really wrap around services. They give them some money towards tuition, but the bulk of the program is really the supportive services over the several years in the program. So that's why there's kind of a hesitation to just call it just a scholarship. But yes, essentially it's supporting 50 students per year to go through that program and get all of those services, plus the follow through on the other students that have already started in the previous cohorts and are still in their program.
The other part of that is I like to learn more, and this is my fault, but for not looking into a little bit more closer and doing more research about it. But I like to know what the involvement is of Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Adelante Mujeres, and other programs like that are said to be helping with entrepreneurship and in these areas. I like to know how and where, because again, just don't see a lot of it. maybe I am way in the minority within the minority.
I can talk about that a little bit. I don't have the exact everything exactly in my mind that I've heard, but our economic development group has done a lot of outreach to groups like Adelante Mujeres and other groups. And when we've been sharing some of the money that we've gotten either through the CDBG funds or CARES money that's come to us, we've also focused on making sure that people from the BIPOC community and are looked at and have gotten a fair amount of funding through those programs as well. So that's a little bit of what we've been doing. Alexis may know more too. And I probably do too, but it's not coming to mind right now.
Sure. I think just very briefly, and then I think the broader point that you're sharing, Oswaldo, is around our communications and how much we are and how well we are communicating these things. But yeah, Adelante Mujeres, Impact Beaverton, MISO, et cetera, offer regular, it's kind of a baseline thing that they offer as usually like an 8 or 10 week business class. They offer networking sessions and other technical support. They offer, one-on-one coaching and support. And I think all have some amount of operations directly in Beaverton that are helped by the funding either through, economic development grants or CDBG grants, et cetera. So there's a lot more to say about that, but they do a lot of direct support with small businesses and emerging businesses, and we do a lot of referring to the different organizations. But I think that it does make me wonder just about, how do we communicate these things, and also how do we present this report to you all in a way that is helpful? Some things can be augmented in these sections, and some of it it's just, well, you just can't say it in a paragraph. So what additional ways and should we be sharing that or opening up dialogue? Certainly we could have economic development come to DAB, or any of the departments come and present, but there's other ways too. So thanks for that feedback too, just that there isn't enough communication. Yeah, go ahead.
I also would like to maybe add a question regarding if there are systems where if you have provided grants to these organizations to support community and businesses and everything, is there a way that maybe we can have some sort of accountability of, okay, so what do you do with the money? I mean, show me the results. Because it's not that I have anything to do or anything against these organizations, a little bit, especially like the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I have been a member of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for 30 years, and they don't even call me to say happy birthday, like other, because that's very important, like they say hello to me, but kidding aside, a lot of times it feels like these organizations are like a club. Like you really have to be there and show up all the time in order for them to then pay attention to what your needs are. And I think that's what I'm talking about when these organizations, their outreach is very minimal. And it's just like I said, it feels like it's a private club. So the members that go to their luncheons are the ones that get the benefits. And I don't know what the case is with Adelante Mujeres. I just remember that I stopped by in their office once and I tried to make conversation, and they were just a little kind of not very approachable. And I'm just, I just don't know how they do their business. And so I like to learn more about it and see and hold them accountable too.
All right, other comments or questions, thoughts about this section? Looks like we have one recommendation for emerging and 2 recommendations for moderate progress, one from Oswaldo, one from Caroline, from what I shared in the chat. Other things that people noticed or support for either of those or a different rating? Monica?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just briefly want to say something about the question that
Oswaldo has about, for instance, Adelante Mujeres. I've been involved with Adelante Mujeres a little bit, not a big deal, but at the few times that I've been there and I've been involved with them, we were able, I say we, Ruth and I, we were able to recommend and to send 2 ladies that they needed help and they want to start their business. So I think that they do work and help the people when they are referred to them. So that was my experience. So that's all I want to make the comment about.
One more thing, Alexis, can you just check if it's been labeled clearly? Because when I was making notes, I don't have the original document in front of me, but when I was making notes, I think EE16 was mislabeled. Or if it's chronologically labeled.
There were some issues with the very first, or were you referring to the very first draft that was sent out?
Yes.
There were some significant issues with that first draft. And so at the beginning of last meeting or earlier that day, I sent out a new draft and then I sent out a draft with this month's because the reference information was not correct in that first draft.
Right.
So yeah, you would want to pull up one of the other 2 versions. I apologize for that. That first one was not.
Okay, sure.
The left-hand column was messed up. Well, I don't see a lot of other comments. Are people ready to weigh in on the rating? All right. I am going to try this poll thing one more time and see if I do it right this time. I think I figured out what the problem was last time, so I'm going to pull up Section 5, Economic Empowerment. Click the box that says allow panelists to vote. So if you are a board member, a current board member, please respond to this poll. If you are not, please disregard. Some excited thumbs up, which is great. Beautiful.
Technology, when it works.
When you know how to use it.
We are going to be so proficient with Zoom by the time COVID's over.
Exactly, yeah. Right when we don't need it anymore. Folks who put their rating in the chat, are you able to use the poll? Were you just ahead of me there? Okay, good. Looks like we have 7 votes in. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. So I'll wait a few more minutes.
Just for clarification here, is anybody double voting? Like in the chat and in the poll? Okay, let's just count the votes in the poll. So if you put your vote in the chat, please put it in the poll, or else we will not count it because we don't want to double count votes here. Thanks.
I did.
All right, just making sure. Thank you.
Great.
What is that double counting? What are you referring to?
Sorry, Rachel.
You all were just
not a fraud.
You were just ready for it to not work, which I appreciate. You were ready for Plan B. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll then so that you can see. Looks like moderate progress took the most votes there. Good. All right. So with that, we will, can you see that? Maybe I need to share. There we go. There's the poll results. All right, so with that, we're going to move on to community building and inclusion. And I had Caroline, Rachel, Alex, Shara, Ahmed, and Brandon assigned to this piece. And both Shara and Caroline sent some input, but neither are able to be here. So I'll go ahead and put those in the chat as well, and then open it up for anybody who wants to share.
I guess I can go. I put my vote firmly in emerging. I felt like there was a lot of stuff that had not started. And then some stuff that said it was started, but then when you read it, I didn't agree. Like CB 2.2 said completed, and simultaneously said there is not a tracking system in place for like the diversity of the groups utilizing the spaces. So I don't know how they can state that that's completed if they don't actually have the data to back that up. I didn't know what CB 3.3 is or means. Kind of could go on for probably too long on that one. Like Oregon has a very racist history, so I hope this is just uplifting and not burying the racist history of Oregon. Like uplifting marginalized voices. Let's see, trying to remember my notes. Like CB 3.4 also, I just don't even know what that is. It just felt like a lot of buzzwords, and I guess $5,000 got contributed to something. Don't know what though. But yeah, some of the stuff like library resources again seemed pretty cool and pretty good. I just hope those spaces are safe for people who are afraid of ice and things, so they can actually safely utilize them without worrying about themselves or their family members. So yeah, I wasn't terribly impressed.
Thanks, Alex, for your comments. I'm happy to, well, first of all, in terms of CB 3.3, that's on the agenda later tonight, and I'll talk more about a project that responds to that specifically. And CB 3.4 is related to, well, they're sort of both related, but that one is related to place naming work that the DAB has advocated for, and the city is starting to work on in collaboration with metro area folks who are working on tribal relations and land acknowledgement pieces. So it's not something that we've talked a tremendous amount in this room about, and maybe we should find some more space for that. I don't want to take up too much time right now, but I will touch on them a little bit later this evening too. So yeah, much more context needed perhaps for those pieces.
Yeah, probably, just because the way a few of them read specifically was like, felt very meaningless to read on paper. Like, I don't know the reality, but.
I guess I can go next since I think I'm the only other person in this group who's at this meeting right now. My overall rating for this section was developing. I can break it down really quickly by goal. So for CB1 cultural community center, obviously there's no progress in that section yet. CB2 cultural celebration, I actually gave a moderate rating. I was impressed by the amount of city support for programming that highlights cultural diversity. And I think it's a little bit hard to really give much weight to CB 2.3 and CB 2.4 since the PRCA isn't even built yet. So I don't think it's too fair to weigh that in to this rating too much. CB 3, acknowledgement of diversity in public spaces. I said emerging. Yeah, still wanting to see a lot more work done with place naming, and I know Alexis is going to talk about it later in the meeting, and that there are a lot of plans regarding that area in the next fiscal year. So for right now, it's kind of just emerging. CB4, developing for me, that was kind of between developing and moderate, and CB5, welcoming city, moderate. So overall, my average was a developing. Right.
Thanks, Rachel. Other folks have anything to add to that section? Teresa.
Thank you. I just want to bring forth the comment from the visitor that we had. I think her name was Karen, or is Karen. Hopefully she's still on the call, I'm not sure. But this is where community comments come in, right? With community building and inclusion. And it is for those who have lived in Beaverton for 30 plus years. And it's for the newcomers as well, because everyone together creates community and feeling inclusive, right? So if we have community members who are feeling like they're being left behind, like their voices aren't being heard, that sense of cultural celebration and people wanting to invest in things like a multicultural center and building upon a welcoming city, those things crumble when you don't have that building. So I think that, the comments that she made in terms of more community conversations, that is something that we as a Diversity Advisory Board try to have. It's difficult because we don't meet in person anymore and because our meetings are once a month, but that the city has been told time and time again about initiatives to have more community conversations, and they're starting to, and that may be something to highlight and discuss next fiscal year or year, right? But I think that it is something that we should hold in the back of our minds. That Karen came on a perfect day as we were discussing this on community building and inclusion, and understanding that from her perspective, and she is not alone in this, that there are still people who don't feel like their voices are being heard. And that is amplified, as we have historically seen in communities of color. So just make note of that. And I'm ready to vote.
All right, are people ready to vote? Thumbs up, or any other comments? Thumbs up, all right. You just love the polling feature. Me too. All right, here we go. Sorry, I should say, I'm sorry, right before we do this, I should say, so it sounds like we have a vote for, or a suggestion for emerging from Alex, a suggestion for developing from Rachel, Caroline suggested emerging, and Shara said developing. So yeah, so a little bit split between folks for those ratings so far. So here we go. Looks like we have 8 votes in at this point. Plus those first 2. So I'll go, unless somebody raises their hand, tells me they need more time, I'll go ahead and close it. And it looks like it's pretty close, but developing would win out by 1 vote. If we add Caroline and Shara's votes. And that lands in the middle of where folks are, or not votes, sorry, poll, like straw polls, they're straws. So, all right. Okay, well then the last section we wanted to come back to just briefly to public engagement. And we had, of course, presentations on this last time, or discussion on this last time. We ended up landing in a place where we had, let's see, 5 people vote for moderate progress and 7 people vote for developing. So closer than the other ones last time, similar to the split we've had tonight. But want to just give folks a chance to say anything else about the public engagement section, or I could just run the poll again and see where folks are at tonight. See if that matches up. Are there any other comments about the public engagement section? I don't know if you've looked back at that since we talked about it last time. I'm guessing you may not have. Do we feel comfortable with a 7-5 split? Okay. Looks like some thumbs up there. So let's see. So it looks like I'm gonna write these last ones in and then share my screen. It's pretty pretty uniform across the board, but we had the one economic empowerment that rated slightly different than the others. Let's see, let me just make sure I have that right. Looks like it. Okay, so I will go ahead and share my screen then on what ratings the board has recommended so far. Everybody see that? Make it a little bigger. So from discussions in the last couple meetings, it looks like everything landed in the developing space except for that economic empowerment section, which landed on moderate. Any discussion about this, or do we want to, Rachel, would you like to call for a vote if you think we're ready?
We have a quorum still, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay. I guess I'd just ask for any last comments, or more so if you have a problem with any of these final ratings that you see here. Now is the time to voice that before we vote. All right, everybody loves it, but we're gonna put it to a vote still. So do I just ask for a motion to approve these progress ratings for the DEI plan report? Cool. Do I have a motion for that from anyone?
I, Teresa, make a motion.
Thank you, Teresa. And I think I might see a second from Oswaldo. Okay.
I second.
All right, thanks, Oswaldo. All in favor of these progress ratings?
Aye.
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 Cool.
Aye.
Thank you. Are there any opposed?
Aye, too.
Sorry, I jumped the gun. Are there any opposed now? Excellent. Well, congratulations, team. We settled on some progress ratings. That was a really great exercise, and I appreciate everybody's participation in that and critical thinking as well. Alexis, we're all good to move on to the next section?
The only other thing I will say is that in terms of next steps for this process, the idea is that the report will be finalized. I sent you all earlier, or just right before the meeting, some updates to a couple of the sections where there were specific questions of, can you provide some more information? So I was able to track down some of that to edit those sections. So we'll be making those little edits and adding your progress ratings and the letter from the Diversity Advisory Board into that report, and we'll be finalizing that. And then the next step is to take it to City Council and report out, share that. It's an opportunity to share the report with them, and also for you all to just kind of check in for the year and say, this is how things have been going, and this is what we see as, you know, things that stand out or that really need some more support, etc. So we'll be looking to schedule that, and would appreciate at least a couple of members from DAB to go to present that information, and certainly any other, you know, encourage everyone to listen in and add if you'd like to make comments during that section. We don't have a date on the calendar quite yet, but I'll be in touch very shortly for that. And Teresa, did you have a question or something you were just signaling? And I'll just say, yeah, I've also been sharing some of your feedback, both in the form of notes and also just pointing staff to these videos. Since we have them recorded now, it's they get to just kind of listen in to some different conversations on the different sections. So I think that will be really helpful. Again, both from the standpoint of like, I don't see a lot of progress here, or I see great progress here, or just from the, I don't hear this being communicated, or the message isn't coming across clear. So I think all of those pieces will be important for helping to shape what next year's report looks like, and also, you know, how we move forward in this work. So I appreciate all of the comments, and they will hear you directly as well as my interpretation of it. And I just invite you also to share, while it's fresh, thoughts about the process itself. What you would want to see moving forward, in addition to what you've shared in terms of how we do this reporting and rating process, or how we communicate throughout the year, how these reports get put together, et cetera. We're always, you know, in the process of trying to make it better and make it more comprehensive and all of that. And so I don't think we've landed on the final answer. So please continue to share those things too. I think that's all.
Thanks, Alexis. And thank you so much for all your effort to put this together. And also to track down some of those answers to the questions that we brought up in the previous meeting. Also, I can see the cattail in Alex's video, and that was wonderful. Thank you for that. And lastly, we are back on schedule. So way to rock that last section. So now we are looking at our discussion on officer elections for next year, 2021. So what we want to do here is just give kind of a short overview of the three officer roles that DAB has, and then give an opportunity for any folks to either nominate themselves or nominate someone else for one of those positions. And they do not have to currently be at this meeting right now in order to be nominated. So just keep that in mind. I guess I'll start, and then I'll move on to Teresa to talk about the VP position, or I should say vice chair position, and Alex will hopefully talk about the secretary position. So the chair leads the board, including all of our monthly board meetings. a lot of the work is done in partnership with the vice chair and with Alexis. I'd say on average, the time commitment probably varies between like maybe 5 and 8 hours a month. So it's not a huge time commitment. And that includes our monthly board meetings. It also can include, you know, various engagement opportunities that arise sometimes, potential city council presentations, and just the occasional additional assignments. So it also kind of just depends on how much you want to take on when those opportunities arise too. So I guess I'll pass it on to Teresa to talk about the vice chair role.
Thank you, Rachel. So as Rachel said, the vice chair works hand in hand, coinciding with the chair and their responsibilities as far as planning the agenda and attending meetings. My role is to support the chair. So if Rachel were out due to whatever, it would be my job and responsibility to take over the meeting, to talk about things, make sure that we're on time, moving things along. And I do attend some things around Beaverton, so I just consider myself just the person of random things like around Beaverton. So it's really nice to work with someone who knows the art world. And I'll be honest, I know very little to nothing about art. So, you know, having different perspectives in leadership is fantastic, and being able to share things with your partner basically in this. So as she said, the time commitment is not that much, and I think everyone should do it. And if you want to do it, I am more than happy to step down, because everyone deserves an opportunity. And I am so excited to throw up some names, but I'm going to popcorn to Alex. Alex, take it away.
Right, talking about being a secretary, it's pretty easy. Take notes during the meeting. Hopefully, theoretically, edit them afterwards and send them to Alexis, and Alexis sends you the template beforehand. So not a big time commitment, just the regular board meetings. I don't know that there's a whole lot to say. I have a cat just constantly harassing me slightly out of frame, so.
All right, thank you, Alex and Teresa. So I think the vast majority of the board members in this conversation right now have been on this board for a while now, and probably already know these roles very well. But for those who haven't, or even those who have been around for a while, are there any questions that you have about the roles, or maybe comments that you want to add on to if you've had these roles before? Okay, crickets, excellent. Then I'll just take a moment here to ask if anybody wants to, and you don't have to in this meeting, you can think about it, bring it up at our next meeting, nominate yourself or someone else for any of these positions, and please be specific. Teresa.
Hello, yes, I would like to nominate you as chair, and I would like to nominate Shara. She's not here, and she'll probably be mad at me for suggesting her, but I would like to nominate Shara for vice chair. She is an excellent preparer, and she is very engaged in things that go on in Beaverton. I think that she would be fantastic in a leadership role, and it will allow her to have the opportunity and access to a leadership role, and it's something to put on your resume. She, for those of you who don't know, recently was hired with THPRD, and so Oftentimes she will know and does know about things that are going on in the THPRD world before any of us. And so that is a connection that I don't think we currently have on the board. You know, we have art, we have housing, we have, you know, communication, we have various facets of the community in Beaverton and Washington County, but I think having that little extra bit of information would be fantastic. So I nominate Rachel as chair and Shara as vice chair.
Thanks, Teresa. Monica.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I do love what we have right now. Both of you have done a beautiful job. You're very well communicators. Very well. You have a good knowledge of everything. I admire Teresa. She's fantastic. She can bring a lot of information for us. Rachel, you are such an awesome person to carry this. And my nomination will be both of you again for next year. You've done a fabulous job, even though that what we're going through now, the way things are, and you handle and you put up the meetings so well. And that's what I enjoy coming to the meetings and knowing that I'm going to be informed, listened, and you know, knowing that the next time you guys will bring information and will answer, response for whatever we need. So I thank you for that. You know, I've been here for 6 years, so I enjoy very much this, and I do want to see you continue it. Both of you.
Thank you, Monica. I appreciate those kind words as well. Anusha, I see that you just joined the meeting, and I just want to quickly catch you up to speed before we move on to the next section. We just discussed the 3 different officer roles that we are accepting nominations for next year, both in this meeting, and we'll also take the nominations in our next meeting when we'll actually have our votes, our election. So if you, either right now or later on, this can also be done via email to Alexis. You may nominate yourself or to someone else, if you don't want to do it in this public setting right now, that's okay. So if you would like to nominate someone or yourself, Anusha, for any of these positions, this is the first opportunity to do that, but not the only. And anybody who is nominated can either accept or decline that nomination as well. I didn't say that before, but that's important.
Cool. Thanks for catching me up, Rachel. I will think about that and then, yeah, probably nominate someone in the next meeting.
Awesome. Thank you. So I'll just give one more opportunity to other folks, or to everyone really, to nominate anyone right now if you want. Teresa, you can go again.
Thank you. I think Alex is great as secretary. I'm going to throw out there Anusha, sorry, what you get for being late, but you are organized, intellectual, and I am certain you take good notes. So opportunity for a leadership role, something to put on your resume. You know, you already are here contributing to your community, and it's not a large commitment. Alexis sends you the template beforehand, and you work off of that template, and then you review it, correct anything that needs correcting afterwards, and then email it to Alexis. You guys have your discussion. We have our meetings for a few hours, and prep is maybe 1 or 2 hours in addition a month. So not a whole lot. So Anusha, you got this. Yeah, I nominate you for secretary. No pressure. You may say no.
I accept. Thanks, Teresa.
I suppose I should have also let folks know that if they wanted to accept the nomination that they received in this meeting, they could do so right now too, or decline. You also don't have to do either right now. That's fine. And I will also add that I am by no means tied to my current role. So if there is anybody who wants to step up and be the chair for next year, especially if you are new and looking for a leadership opportunity, strongly encourage you to do that. So I'll just put that out there.
Are you accepting the nomination?
I'm just gonna wait and see if there's anyone else who's excited about this role for next year.
But you can accept and that happen next week. next meeting, I meant.
We'll see. We'll see. But I do appreciate the nomination. Okay, I think that'll wrap up that conversation. Please do remember though, if you do have nominations that come up between now and our next meeting, it's really helpful to get those to Alexis ahead of time, so that she can also check in with folks too, and we save discussion time in our meeting. It's time for a place naming update, and Alexis will be leading this one for us. Take it away.
Thanks. So it says place naming update on the agenda. So I want to definitely give you all some information. I kind of sped through some pieces at the end of last meeting, and I have a few more details on that. So I want to share that update with you all. But I think I do just want to take a step back for a second and share just a little bit about kind of some of the context and pieces that are surrounding this place naming work, which you all are very accurate in diagnosing as being in its very initial stages and moving slow. But there are some pieces that are in motion that I think are pretty exciting and are hopefully laying the foundation for some bigger work and relate to a couple of the pieces that definitely that Alex brought up in the CB, the Community Building and Inclusion section number 3 around acknowledgement of diversity in public spaces. So I want to just say a couple words about this emerging project that we're calling the People's History of Beaverton. A little bit about perhaps about that collaborative, regional collaborative on tribal relations, and then specifically about the Public Safety Center Plaza process that's been outlined. And I will keep it brief. But there are some pieces that sometimes they're in motion and it's, we don't get to them. And I sort of feel like I'm doing so much with you all that you know all of this. And I'm realizing that I'm not, maybe haven't taken the time to share some of these pieces. So I think the first piece that we recognized as we're being asked to step into this place naming work is that we don't have the city doesn't have, first of all, a historical narrative that's very inclusive. It's in sort of like our dominant narrative that we talk about the history of Beaverton, and the county doesn't in particular, as you all noted, and as the Leading with Race study noted. We don't have yet an inventory or a database of diverse names that we would suggest a developer or a city committee choose a more diverse name off of. We don't have a lot of those kind of foundational pieces that allow us to step right into that work in kind of an informed or a less subjective way. I mean, it's all, there's subjectivity involved, of course, but some more foundation through which to do that. So the first thing is just launching a project that has us look a little bit deeper into what does that history look like, some of which is not recorded or written in anywhere. And some of it just isn't in sort of the archive and again the narrative of the city itself. So I'm going to share a screen really quick on a project charter for the People's History of Beaverton, just so I can point out a couple of things. None of this stuff is like stuff that we publish on our website, because they're, you know, it's just initial stages of projects and pieces that we're working on. But I want to share this with you so that you all just have a sense of kind of the development of the project and the tone, because I think that's an important piece that Alex was bringing up as well. Move this out of the way. So the purpose of the People's History of Beaverton is to compile and share an anti-racist history of Beaverton that centers people of color, creates a foundation for equitable city policy development, and supports a shared identity among people of all backgrounds in Beaverton. So there's a recognition that there's a lot of planning and development work that's happening right now that's laying the groundwork for a lot of change in Beaverton that's already started, but is emerging even more over the next several years, and that some of this foundational work could really help shape the decisions that are made. And so that there's a lot of internal education on the part of city staff and leadership that needs to happen, and engagement in these discussions, and just background knowledge that doesn't necessarily exist universally among folks involved in these in decision making around this. And so that there's some need to gather some of that. So some background around a lot of the history that the city traditionally has talked about is really centered around, you know, certain narratives that have been emphasized. So that has started to shift a bit with the Leading with Race study that, again, the city was a funder of and is a big supporter of, and the work that you all have done, and the work that's outlined in the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Plan that really calls for us to do this. Some of the project goals you'll see there: gather historical information that expands that narrative to really include and center BIPOC communities, create a list of individuals across history that contributed to shaping Beaverton's story, so that can be used in place naming initiatives and efforts. Really look into the zoning and planning history of the city and how that, in conjunction with state law and federal law, disproportionately impacted communities of color and has impacted the way that Beaverton has developed, and how certain communities have become segregated or, you know, shaped in certain ways. So really looking into some of that history through a critical lens. And also not just focusing on only sort of the negative impacts, but also where are we highlighting the contributions of and the resiliency of communities of color in this story, in this history. So looking at some of those pieces. So there's a lot of planning staff, mayor's office staff, other staff involved in this project. There's also 3 different interns that have been tasked with starting to gather this information. And then we are on the brink of contracting with Five Oaks Museum, which is a really wonderful nonprofit organization. Used to be Washington County Museum, but is now a nonprofit organization that's slightly more, or that is more independent. And they're going to help also dig into the county historical archive and also do help us gather some of that information from living folks as well. So the first phase is really focused on educating and informing internal decision makers, because there's stuff that's coming up like really soon, like next year. So we have some ideas about where to use that information. There's also, so there's a couple different phases. This is actually an old draft now, I'm realizing, but there's a second phase in here that's about community engagement and really gathering, going out to gather some stories and information that we don't have that's written down in the archive. And then this is actually the third phase that you're seeing up on here. Thinking about how are we going to educate and inform and share the information with the community. So I'm going to stop share this. So one example that is really compelling, has been really compelling for us to look at, doesn't have to be the way that we go, but is in Tigard. They have something called the Tigard Outdoor Museum that we went to see recently with the Five Oaks Museum staff that created that display. And it's a really compelling outdoor exhibit along a central trail in their downtown that highlights the history of folks of color who've contributed to Tigard and to the county. So lots of different things that we can do with that information, but I think that's sort of, you know, just a quick sense of like how we're wrapping our heads around what work have we not done yet, but do we need to do to be able to call that into this space, to be able to be real in conversations around that, you know, federal, state, and local policies have been have resulted in, disproportionate impacts in our community, have been racist across history in different ways, and have shaped the way that Beaverton looks today, and that we have to understand that in order to make different decisions moving forward. So I think that's one piece. And then again, just even having an inventory of names and of figures that haven't been highlighted so that we can, be ready to do things like place naming projects such as the plaza project that's coming up. So there's more to say about that, but that's kind of my intro about that. And then I would say one major gap in our cultural inclusion work that's been highlighted for a long time, and certainly has been on my list to improve, is thinking about our relationships with Native tribes in the area that have had either historic or current relationships to the land that Beaverton currently sits on. And so one piece of that a lot of institutions are doing right now is to create land acknowledgement statements and policies and educational pieces and relationships actually with those tribes, so that we are recognizing in our everyday work and when we're doing events and when we're doing groundbreakings, et cetera, that this is original. These are the original lands of the Atfaladi, the Kalapuya Indians in Beaverton, and several others who used this land. But in order to do that, we need to first know who are those folks, and that's actually relatively disputed in the region. And we also have to build those relationships, and we have to have the capacity to build government to government relations, because that's really the work to be done. So we have joined this collaborative metro-wide that is working on some of these issues, and several jurisdictions that are interested in doing this work, who have said, okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to fund this study that's going to get an independent consultant to do that research and talk with tribes in the region, or that may have had claims to land in this area, and just get create an analysis of who it is that we're talking about when we talk about Beaverton more specifically. And so that is the $5,000 that was cited in the report, was contributing to that RFP of that work that's going out. And then that's also going to be, there's a collective of artists and writers that are going to they're going to be hired to transform that language into something that's really, to transform some of that information into language that's really accurate and beautiful and honoring of those folks that we can use. Go ahead, Rachel.
I was just going to ask, where are y'all at in that process? Has that consultant been hired yet, or are you further than that?
Yeah, so the process got significantly delayed, but they have now been hired, and we're projected to have that process finished and have the land acknowledgement statement by the end of March. So that's what we're hoping, and there are plans already to incorporate some of that into the Art Center building, et cetera. So yeah, other questions about those pieces, and then I'll say something about Public Safety Center. Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Slightly off, but I assume it's kind of too late to change the name of the project, because I'm, a big fan of Howard Zinn's work, but invoking it in a project that is being run by a city government feels inherently sketchy to me. But it's probably too late, so.
I don't think it is too late, and I share your concern. So I think we could, yeah. I think it's been mostly dubbed internally. We were calling it for a while a cultural history of Beaverton, and that didn't feel quite right. And people's history is maybe more reminiscent of what we hope it could be, but I agree there's some inherent conflict there of who is convening the project. So yeah, I'll share that. So in terms of the Public Safety Center plaza naming, I think I sort of shared with you very briefly at the end last time. This is back in March of this year. Cadence from the Community Development Division came and sort of tried to talk with the group about an idea for an outline of how that process could go to name the plaza in front of the Public Safety Center. That process got delayed and kind of got construction got delayed, et cetera. Some pieces didn't fall into place as quickly as we thought it would or hoped it would. But we're at a place finally now where we have a roadmap forward, and that is that a committee of current board and neighborhood association members will be formed in January, February. The current plan or proposal on the table is to have one member from the Diversity Advisory Board, one member from the Arts Commission, and then one member of each of the neighborhood associations that are adjacent or that abut the Public Safety Center, because it's kind of among a few, to come together in a small committee and to determine some criteria for a call for names that would go out to the community to ask for suggestions for that. Also, the work of Five Oaks Museum and this project would help guide that as well, or would help, you know, provide some potential names for that as well. The neighborhood office is who would work with the committee and sort of convene the committee, but certainly the marketing team and the events team would be involved in the process as well. In March, there would be an article in the Year City, and that would kind of, you know, kick off the nomination process for those names. In April and May, the committee would consider or deliberate on those names. And then in June, the committee would present, you know, a couple of options to City Council and the city manager for feedback and input and sort of guidance on that final step to choose the name. And then in July, the committee would help think a little bit about what the naming ceremony or event could look like. And in August is projected when the plaza would actually get named and, you know, something would get installed there, recognizing that. And so that still to be determined if that would be in person or virtual or what that looks like, of course. But that is the process that that folks have landed on until now. So any questions or thoughts about that or suggestions?
What can we do to be part of that committee?
Yeah, so I think it will just be a matter of nominating somebody from the board to serve on the committee. So choosing one member. We haven't been asked to do that quite yet, been asked to do that in January. So if there's somebody who feels really passionate about that, that would be fine. It's up to the board, but I think we will have a few new members joining as well. So you may want to wait till January.
I like.
Go ahead. You would like? Okay.
I like to be involved.
Good to know you're interested. Yeah. Go ahead, Monica.
I have the privilege to meet with Cadence, and we were talking about that, and I had 2 meetings with her, and they are collecting different names, and they collected 2 of the names that I thought it should be. So I'm very excited about that because I kind of know a little bit how they're working on it. And I think whatever it comes out, the name that is going to come out, it will be very good in the sense that it's going to be picking by the people of the community. Majority of the suggestions would be, of course, other people is going to be involved in that too. I don't know. But what I hear and what I know is more they're looking for something about the community coming on with it, because they want to have that plaza for everybody to feel welcome there. And that is not a word that is going to be specifically going to one group or another group or specific. It's going to be something that everybody can identify. So with the meetings that I had, I'm very excited. And also I was kind of, I could say honored or something that they called me, and I had another meeting for the project for downtown Beaverton. So what is going to be developed and the buildings they want to keep. So I've been involved in other little things all this time that we were with this COVID, but I've been having my input in there too. So I'm very excited about, it's okay if I'm not in the community, but I'm just sharing with you that I'm very excited about what's coming up with the plaza.
That's great. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I think, you know, to say that this is, the idea is that perhaps this process would be kind of a pilot in terms of thinking about synthesizing some of this information and trying to gather some names and trying out this process, et cetera. Obviously, the idea of, you know, a place naming initiative is broader than just naming the Public Safety Center plaza, although it's a kind of a cool current thing that this can be used on immediately. And then, you know, the other pieces further along are to think about what kind of policies could the council consider so that, you know, this is part of the conversation in other places where it's not directly the city's, you know, jurisdiction to name something, as is the case for a lot of different projects. All right. Well, I hope that's some helpful background, and we will keep you all informed, and definitely let me know if you have other ideas or suggestions, and or about, you know, where else this information can filter into DAB and have DAB be part of it, because it's really important crossover. And really is inspired by the work that you all have advocated for.
Alexis, I just want to say that I think this year, despite of the situations we're going through still, and who knows how long it's going to be now, I think that this year, I feel it's been very productive in our job. Personally, I have my up and downs in many ways, but I think, for instance, I was thinking about the way we rank and grade the DEI is much better than last year. So what you created this year, for me, it was very easy to go through and start, you know, looking what I want to give it to. It was easy. It was really nice. I think the first time we did it, it was very difficult because we didn't know. We just developed something so big that just like at the night market, we didn't know how big it was going to get. This started getting big too. So I thank you for your job, where you create things to make it easy on us to be part of it. And I think this year, despite whatever we're going through, I thought it was going to be a very difficult and dead year after March, but it's been good. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Can I know we need to move on to staff liaison announcements, but I'm just gonna jump on this little love train here real quick and say that I'm sure you all know that Alexis does a ton of work for us, but being a part of the leadership team, holy smokes, you really get a sense for all of the work that she does behind the scenes. Like, she is the power behind this board. So big thank you to Alexis. We don't show our appreciation enough, and we love you. So let's hear your liaison, staff liaison announcements now.
All right, we will jump in. Yeah, not a ton to share tonight. I'm gonna share screen so you all can see this. Tomorrow evening, there's going to be a public social hour with the associate judge candidate. And when I finish, Alex, I don't know if you want to say anything about that process. But anyways, tomorrow night there's a public session, and so anybody is welcome to listen into that with the finalist. Also wanted to just let folks know that we are moving forward with the Beaverton Severe Weather Shelter opening on next Sunday evening. It's going to be, I think I might have mentioned last time, but a much more robust shelter season for us. It's going to be a 24/7 shelter this winter. for 120 days starting in November. And we're really lucky to have more space in the building in the community center this year. We're going to be using the west side of the building that was previously closed and rented to another organization for a day center component. So the shelter this year is there's no just walk-ups. It is no first come, first serve. I mean, it is enrollment only. So if you know anyone or happen to, run into somebody that needs shelter services, there is a referral and sign up on the Washington County Homeless Services page. So I left the link there. You can either fill out a really simple form online, or there's a phone number that folks can call to get pre-enrolled in the shelter. But that will be happening starting November 15th. And then all city updates. You can see there's just an announcement about a continuation of this combination of services that staff are offering currently. That's a combination between remote, virtual, and on-site. That's going to continue. So what we're doing right now is going to continue through the end of the calendar year. You can see some different details just about the safety precautions there. BCL to go is continuing at the library and also at Murray Shoals. And there's a computer lab open at the main library right now. So for a couple hours, a couple days a week. So that's an important service to be opening up again. And then there's some utility bill assistance that has come, I believe, through federal money that has been passed down and so is now available as well. So if you know folks who need support on paying water, sewer, waste collection, and other utilities through the end of the year, you can also, through community action, there's some funding there for support. And housing and emergency rent assistance continues as well. So just wanted to make sure folks are aware of those things. And again, you should have received that over email as well. So let me know if you have any questions. And yeah, I just wanted to see if, I don't know if Alex, you wanted to say anything about the process you participated in or about the candidate for tomorrow night. No pressure if you don't want to, but appreciate you serving on that panel.
Yeah, sure. It was interesting to be in. I'm glad to see who the finalists turned out to be. So he seemed really cool, really good. Yeah, it seems like a very stressful interview process for the people involved. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. And I already vaguely mentioned some of my feedback of, I tried to have us do a diversity prejudice training. That's not the right word, but I'm blanking on the right word. And it was not very good. So I need to get that feedback to them somehow more officially. But yeah, it was an interesting process.
Are you talking about
A lot of it I'm not supposed to talk about. So
is that the bias training?
Can't hear.
She said, was that the bias training?
Yeah, the bias training. Yeah, it was bad. Like I could have a conversation about more specifics, but probably not here.
I would be happy to talk about that another time. About to do it again for the interim city manager.
Sorry, I can barely hear.
She said that she would love to talk to you about that.
Okay.
So you guys should connect after this. All right, we are out of time, it looks like. Before we leave, I know that Councilor Arnold will be probably split between our meeting and her other meeting for next month. So I just want to make sure we catch her now in this one to say thank you so much for all of your support for this board, for this city. I know you've been serving as a city councilor for what, like 15 years, and can't thank you enough for all that you've done for us. And
thank you guys. Again, it's just been such a pleasure to serve with you. You guys are doing such thoughtful, touching, meaningful things for our community. I really appreciate it too. And it was such a pleasure to be able to end with you. So thank you.
Thanks. Take care, everyone. Have a good night, and we'll see you next month.